Welcome to another beautiful show about this upcoming walk-in conference that's happening on it's happening January 8th and 9th.
Yes.
Here, me and Sheila Seppi and Neil Gore are producing it. And our guest today is one of the speakers there. And Sheila, just go a little bit about what this conference is about, and then we'll go into Jason Addison Ames' mission.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
So if people are joining us for the first time, this conference is a 2-day online conference, and it's on January the 8th and the 9th. Now, this is the second conference of its kind, and I'm super excited. I'm always excited about all of the conferences, but I'm really excited about this one because last year, we just kind of scratched the surface of walk-ins, who they are, what walk-ins are about, what the missions are, how people are really kind of walking that energy out on this planet. And this year, we're going to go a little bit deeper. Actually, we're going to go a lot deeper. When we're going to have activations, we're going to have channeling, we're going to have all kinds of individuals there who they themselves have become walk-ins, whether it's a soul exchange walk-in like what I am, whether it's an infusion, blending, if it's a oversoul coming in, more of the information and more of that essence attaching in. So there are very many, quite a few actually different types of walk-ins. And so this time you're going to hear from different walk-ins. You're going to hear their stories. You're going to hear from angelic walk-ins. You're going to hear, I can't wait to hear Jason's story because I haven't heard it yet. So I'm super excited about today because Jason, I understand you have quite a story to share, but I'm going to just kind of go through here really quickly.
Yeah.
To just give you an idea of the individuals that will be with us. Yesterday, we had James Farley with us. And if you guys missed that, that was a phenomenal interview. He came in bringing more like shamanic aspects of himself in. We've had Stephanie Lodge, and Stephanie is definitely an angelic walk-in. Claire's also an angelic walk-in. So we just have lots of information to share with everyone. So I'm super excited. We'll be sharing more information next week. If you have not already registered, please do so. And as our gift to you, use the PTA 25 and you will receive a 25% discount off of your registration. So that's kind of our way to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and Happy Solstice, Happy Yule, Happy everything to everyone. So please check it out, PortalToAscension.org. You can register today.
Great. Thank you, Sheila. Sheila and Neil's there. Neil Gore is on Portal. He's the founder of Portal to Ascension, and Sheila is the author of Walk-ins, The Cosmology of the Soul. So let's introduce the guest today, Sheila. And you can
Would you like to go ahead? Yeah, I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Good.
Actually, I became acquainted with Jason through you. And so I'd love to kind of pass that baton to you. I could read his bio.
No, I just want to tell people, I mean, you could, but I just want to say, tell people when I met Jason a few months ago, his story of the walk-in experience was so different and so intense and such a lifelong mission. I just knew he had to be part of this conference. So Jason, why don't you go into that story, because you're not a regular person in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Sheila.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give kind of a brief overview because it is a long story, but my background is really in corporate marketing. And so I did that for about 20 years in New York City, San Francisco, Orlando, Florida. And in 2019, my life began to get stranger than what it was before. And I'll go into that in just a second. But I really didn't know what was going on. It was late 2019. And I began to have all of these supernatural experiences, hear lots of voices, but these were very intelligent, very insightful, knowing, loving voices, encouraging voices. Begin to see things, see beings, Things in my house were moving on their own. And I could feel all of these energies around me, almost like beings, like the
Before
shape.
that, you were just stuck, you were in the corporate world before all that? You were?
Yeah. In 2019, I was working for a venture capital firm in Orlando, Florida. Before that, I worked for Electronic Arts, the world's largest video game maker, as director of worldwide public relations. I worked for a strategic communications agency in New York. So yeah, I did that for a long time. And about 10 years before this happened, even though I was working in the corporate world, it was really hard. I was going through kind of the dark night of the soul for probably about 10 years. I was facing alcoholism, experienced lots of loss because of that in my life, and was also daunted by some what I would call lower frequential beings, you could say darker beings, for about 10 years. And then when the walk-in happened, it was like it was completely turned around. The energies were completely different. These were super high vibrational energies.
What actually happened though to you? What was the actual experience and moment of that?
Well, it started in late 2019, and that's when I really began to hear voices of all of these high vibrational, very loving beings. What was really first introduced to Metatron and to Sandalphon, those were the first two beings that together started to talk to me on a regular basis. And then many other angelics began.
But how'd you know that was a real thing? Because you were in this other world. How were you opened up to that new possibility?
Well, it took a little bit of time for me to understand who they were. At first, I didn't really know who they were. All of the way I used my free time, all of my interests changed dramatically. I kept hearing the voice say, "Get a subscription to Gaia Television," and which I hadn't done before. I was aware of, but hadn't done. So I got that, and that began to teach me a lot about stuff. And I began to be led to certain websites, to read certain books. And so I was kind of given the information so I could or be led to the information so I could kind of understand what was going on. Also, I'm very clairaudient and telepathic. So, these beings would talk and say, "Listen, I'm Metatron. Look me up. Here's who I am," a little bit about, and then start teaching me and telling me things. So that was the start. And then in 2020, the voices and the guides that I was working with, the angelics mostly at that point in time, would have me get up very early in the morning and go for an early morning walk or jog and talk to me the whole time, communicate with me the whole time. And one of these mornings, it was very early, maybe around 5 a.m. I'm walking, and all of a sudden my body began to move on its own. And that was different. That had never happened to me before. And it wasn't me. It was like this magnetic force moving around me and through me. And
so there was no dramatic sort of all of a sudden, boom. It was more of a slow process. Is that it?
Well, I mean, from my perspective, it was all very dramatic. Like every day was dramatic for probably about, I would say, 8 months. So it was, as I've been taught by my guides and the guides that I work with, it didn't happen overnight, but it happened over a period of time. There was one day that I came home from the office working for the venture capital firm, and I had a house there. So I come into the kitchen, and all of a sudden I felt like a tractor beam was attached to me and going to pull me through the roof of the house. And I began to grab onto the cabinets to hold myself down because I literally thought I was going to fly through the roof, and kind of guided myself over to the kitchen, to the dining room table, and got underneath the dining room table, which was a big marble table. And it felt like I had to hold myself down. And I called a dear friend of mine in Brazil on Skype. I had my computer there, and I'm like, "What is going on?" He's a spiritual leader, spiritual thinker, teacher. And I said, what's happening? What's going on? And he's like, nothing, something's happened to you. And so I really didn't know what was happening. That experience lasted for a few hours, and I ended up having to go to bed afterwards because it was so intense. Came to find out that was like a chunk of the walk-in happening. So it was the old structure moving away, and then this direct connection to higher vibrational forces being connected. And so that feeling was so high vibration, I thought I was going to fly through the roof. So that's an example of something dramatic that happened.
That is dramatic. But you also told me, I mean, I know there's a lot to the story, which is great, that you were sort of that at birth. You sort of, there was like a, because that's something I think Sheila would be interested in too, because, talk about that.
Yeah, and I learned this later on. And listen, I didn't even realize I was a walk-in until 2021. It took me a while to know what was going on. So
that's this year, 2021.
That's this year. Yeah. So early in the year, I had just moved to Sedona, Arizona. I was kind of brought all the information to me by people and by media resources. And I said to myself, wait, I think this is me. And then I checked in with the guides, and the guides are like, yeah, this is you. And so
the walk-in experience,
the walk-in experience, yeah. Because up until that point in time, I really didn't know what was going on. I mean, I knew I had this connection to the guides. I was doing the work that they wanted me to do, but I didn't know how it all happened. So then they began to teach me a lot about how it all happened. So they said I was born with this direct connection to what I'm connected to now, which is what they call a composite consciousness, just like a composite material that aircraft exteriors are made of. It's lots of materials laid end over end that makes a very strong outer crust for the plane. And so they told me that I'm made up of many different consciousnesses that layer together to create the consciousness that is me. It's largely angelic and ascended masters, primarily that of the Order of Melchizedek, and some others as well. Some I probably will never even know. It's a pretty big collective consciousness. But I was actually born with that consciousness, and then at age 10, it was replaced by a different soul and higher self structure to kind of go through that dark night of the soul that I was talking about earlier, to go through a lot of loss, hardship, but also there were many gains that I had during that time. It was really a roller coaster time. And so then that lasted with me until 2019, and then they replaced that with what I was originally and what I am now, which is that composite consciousness.
Have you heard of that, Sheila? Composite consciousness?
No, what I have heard and was told, that's kind of like a collective consciousness that, when everything is within its, when all of the different parts are back into oneness, then you have this large collective consciousness. And at points and times, different aspects of that collective consciousness can go ahead and incarnate. But it's kind of like the collective that I came from. And so when I came in, I brought more of the Arcturian aspects. And so it sounds like when you came in, you brought those angelic portions in to anchor on the planet to help raise the vibration, and also to kind of experience what's going on at this particular time.
Is that right?
Really cool.
Yes. And so, to go a little deeper in that, is the word they use is composite, and that's the one they've always used.
Of
so
course.
I'm going to stick with it, but I think it's the same kind of thing. They're kind of all there at the same time as me, but it's almost like, imagine you've got a choir singing, and then someone will step out from the choir to grab the microphone and sing a solo, and then step back into the choir afterwards. So there are times, and this has been challenging for me to deal with, and you'll understand why when I say it, there are times that different of these angelics and ascended masters will step forward and take the mic and be more me than what they were before. Mm-hmm. So it's been difficult to manage because recently I felt Archangel Raphael energies very strongly in me. Before that, Melchizedek. Before that, Michael, Archangel Michael. And so as that happens, there is this new integration that needs to happen and understanding so that I can kind of manage through it as a personality structure in this realm.
But you're still in process, aren't you? Because it's like still shifting and you're opening and you're you're here. So your mission here is what as a walk-in sort of?
So what I've been taught, it is the evolution of human consciousness, specifically focused on humanity and the evolution of human consciousness, period. And so it may have different expressions. There may be different things that I do, but that's really the point of it all. A big part of the work that I've done recently, let's say, has been channeling. And so I channel a collective called The Guides, capital T, capital G, and it's a big group. They say sometimes up to 300 members, angelics, ascended masters, extraterrestrials, interterrestrials, spirits, nature spirits, and many others. And so, I work with people, couples, groups, and they ask questions to the guides, and the guides kind of are like teachers and give them guidance to move forward.
Cool.
So, go ahead, Sheila.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it also sounds like, and I know you're using the word composite. Mm-hmm. When I was conducting my interviews for the book that I wrote, The WalkIns Cosmology of the Soul, I talked with several individuals who had not as dramatic a story, but one that gave me kind of some languaging of a multi-dimensional soul layering. So when you're coming in, you have all of those soul parts in there, and depending on who needs to experience what or who needs to bring what forward, it's kind of like this dance of energetic soul energy going on all of the time. And one of the things that I was told by one of the people was that, there was so much sometimes happening within their body, mind, spirit complex that it was like, okay, wait a minute, who am I right now? And what am I experiencing right now? Because things could kind of switch on a dime. Do you experience that also?
I do. Yeah, very well said. So, with different people in different situations, I can feel kind of, again, that choir soloist kind of concept happening. But it seems to me, and I think this is correct as I check in with the guides on this live now, is that in my overall life, if you think of my life as a linear timeline, it feels like there's a template or a game plan as to what by segment, let's say, or time frame or window of opportunity that different beings are going to be present there. But like I just mentioned, like Raphael's been really present here recently. Before that, Melchizedek, very strong. Before that, Michael, very strong. So it almost seems like there's a lesson plan, a class plan to this. Mm-hmm. And it seems like it will continue for some time.
So in the class plan, is that things that they're teaching you and bringing forward for you, or are they sharing information with you to then give out to others, or is it kind of both?
Both for sure. I'm definitely learning. Every day is just full of awe and wonder, magic and miracles. It's always something that I'm learning new about existence, about people, about myself. But it's also
because. Oh, I was just going to say, is that because you're always connected? You never have time off. You're always on.
Yeah. One of the phrases they gave me early on was, "You're an always on channel, or you're always connected to us, and they're always moving through my body. So even if I'm on the sofa eating or whatever it may be, they even move my eyeballs." Oh, look at that. And they don't tell me to look at it many times. They'll just move my eyes to go look at it. So when I lay in bed, they're there. It's always on. So sometimes, it's been a big learning for me. It's a huge energy drain. So sometimes I need a lot of sleep, and sometimes I need a break from people, because I feel when I'm around people, like energy flowing down through me and then out of me. And so as a always on channel, the body sometimes gets a little fatigued.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did they say is the purpose of this?
Well, again, I think ultimately they say the evolution of human consciousness. I'm here for humanity. They've always told me that it's something new. Is what they've told me, something different and unique. And there's an extraterrestrial component to it too, which I know Alan will appreciate. I know he likes this part of the story, is that the body that I am, they've told me that I'm not my mother's son or my father's son. That they were carriers. My mother, evidently, the egg was placed within her. She carried me as a child, gave birth to me, but it wasn't really my mother and father that conceived me. They say that it was a ascended master and an angelic plan, and that my being, the egg that was me, was created on ship.
It's 2:00.
And is really a zeta reticulan being, implanted in my mother's womb, given birth, born with this angelic ascended master structure, given this lower density soul, higher self structure at 10, then replaced with the original structure at 2019. So that's kind of what they've taught me.
Isn't that interesting, Sheila?
Yeah. So
Yes.
So you're an angelic hybrid.
That's a good way to say it.
Yes.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Have you heard about that before? Have you heard about angelic hybrid, ET angelic hybrid
Yes.
human almost?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Heard about it.
I have. I've talked, I talk with a lot of different people that share their stories with me. And some of the things that people tell me that their guides are sharing with them is just awe-inspiring. And this is just one of those stories. And I think it's so important for people to hear this, because as people are waking up, it's not necessarily because they're doing anything to wake up. It's their time. And that DNA and that light code is being activated. And so as people are waking up, this is another answer possibly to their questions, like, what the heck is happening to me? Because so many people have so many questions right now. I think this is a beautiful story. And I think, for me, it always excites me and energizes me when I hear people how they became a walk-in. But this is very exciting to know that we've got those angelic troops here on the ground and the ET troops on the ground. And a lot of people talk about the angelics actually being another extraterrestrial type of species. What do you say about that?
Well, I think for sure. I think the angelics are not born of Earth originally, and they work in other places besides Earth. So if you want to look at them as extraterrestrials, great, go for it. The information that I've been given, I think you guys will find this interesting, is that if you look back in time, 2,000 to 2,500 years ago, the Earth was pelted with higher dimensional beings manifest in form, like Yeshua, people call him Jesus, Buddha, many other great teachers that were not just humans. They were, in a way, either walk-ins or literally just manifest in form from the very beginning. And I think the listeners and you all are familiar with that time frame. Is the guides have taught me that what's happening now is we're at a gateway that's open, that we're at the very forefront of that same time frame, which they say is going to last about 500 years. Of more and more walk-ins, higher dimensional beings, higher frequential beings manifest in form, which includes angels and extraterrestrials and many others, to get humanity through a time of extraordinary evolution, accelerate it. And acceleration is one of the things the guides always talk about, is that they're trying to keep humanity on a timeline. They're trying to keep keep it moving. Like, let's go, guys. And so so that's happening now. And I really get the sense there's lots of angelic, I can talk about angelics and ascended masters because they're so close to me. Lots of ascended master and angelic focus on the human evolution, and really asking for humanity's collaboration with the angelics and the ascended masters. And they say all you got to do is invite them in. That's one of the rule sets, is extra dimensional beings really need to be invited in. And so you can say, angelics, 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 angels, 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 I invite you in. Ascended masters, ascended masters, ascended masters, I welcome you and invite you in. And that'll, get the energy flowing for people to be able to connect with those beings.
Right. But I think your guides also may have a special message for the walk-ins that are arriving now, or some kind of, because you're so in touch with that. Is there anything you want to share about that?
That's a great question, Alan. Let me ask them. They're saying over and over again, community, community, community. So like this wonderful event that you all are, hosting, this walk-in conference, and then, localized walk-in groups, creating a sense of community so that people can share their stories with other walk-ins, and they're saying, like, get a sense of, and that will help people to get a sense of their mission as a walk-in. Walk-ins don't happen just because it's cool.
Right.
Walk-ins happen because there's a reason for it. And it's really, I look at it in two ways. One is being. So just by being alive with that walk-in structure, you're really bringing in light codes, high frequential energy, all of that helps humanity evolve. Two, and I'm asking, is this for everybody? So some walk-ins happen just for the being part, is what they're saying. And then some people have a mission, which is a new mission than what they had before. So by this engendering the sense of community, it will help people to say, okay, what is my mission? Am I just here to be, or am I here to be and do? And if so, what does that look like?
Right. So you have also like missions, let me just put this, for humanity. I mean, you're bringing through codes, and part of this weekend is activations and initiations and openings. So do you want to channel a little bit? Do you have any more questions? Maybe you can channel a little bit about what's coming to the planet, and also, save some for the weekend. But I
do have one more question that I wanted to ask before you channel. One of the things that a lot of the walk-ins tell me is they have this impending sense of urgency. And a lot of people are talking about ascension. I kind of see the ascension as we've kind of been ascending since we've been on this planet, but the ascension moving into a higher realm of consciousness and expanded consciousness. Do your guides, do your beings have anything to say in regards to that?
Yeah, they'd actually like to answer that themselves.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I'll just bring them in. One moment. And we are here with you now. These are the guides. Hello, everyone. So we appreciate the interest in this topic of walk-ins, which is an imperative part of the overall plan that we have, we being ascended masters and other creators of the existence and universe that you live in, which includes Melchizedek and Metatron and many others, is that this key component of it is almost like sending troops behind enemy lines, like SEAL teams behind enemy lines to infiltrate the enemy and then change the experiment of whatever kind of conflict or existence may be happening. So as walk-ins happen more and more, and they will continue to happen more and more for your lifetime and for lifetimes after that, and really as the life before you said, really for about the next, let's say 500 years, give or take a few years, is there is this almost like pelting of the planet with these SEAL teams that are high frequential, full of light codes, and it's not just static, it's always coming through, it's a free flow. And much like the life before you said, that it is a always on channel. And even though it experiences it as very physical or tactile, really walk-ins and all the walk-ins listening to this should consider themselves always on channels, because the flow of information is always happening. So as walk-ins continue to proliferate, and other kinds of beings that are maybe not even walk-ins, but they're literally high vibrational beings manifest in form from birth, that it will have a multiplier, exponential effect on humanity that very easily, not necessarily for the walk-in, but for society, lift humanity to higher vibrational levels. So we encourage walk-ins to, even if they are just a being walk-in, which is not just, but it is a wonderful way of serving serving humanity, but allow oneself to go out into the community. When you're in the grocery store shopping, remember that you're there and you're affecting everyone in the grocery store. People that you may meet, people that you may never meet. You're always affecting all of your surroundings, and that's a very beautiful thing. Now let's talk about the question that you had about kind of where humanity is headed as a timeline, or the timeline that you're currently experiencing, is that from 2022 to 2027, it's going to be a tumultuous time, some of it kind of difficult, some of it easy, but there's going to be some ups and downs, and it's all incredible and deep learning. So we encourage all of you who are listening to this right now, put your seatbelt on and get ready for a wonderful and sometimes wild ride for the next few years. We're not going to go into details right now about what that's going to be, but it's going to lead up to a 2027 that's going to be a whole new understanding of humanity. Imagine humanity looking at itself in a mirror. Humanity is going to see itself differently in 2027. And therefore, the world will be at a different, of course, frequency and vibration, because it's always raising, but at a different tonality completely than what you're experiencing now. So do the work, everyone, on yourself primarily. Remember, it's within you where you really change the world. We quote Mahatma Gandhi often, be the change you wish to see in the world. Allow yourself to be your first and most important focus for the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years. And then allow in 2027 yourselves to experience a breath of fresh air. And we will even say, and this is bold, a breath of fifth dimensional air, because it really is the point at which humanity begins to cross the fifth dimensional border. Now, the way this works is you are within, let's say, the third dimension, but you are at a very high density within the third dimension, and it's moving always. And if you look at it from a broad perspective, very slowly. If you're within it, very fast. And as it moves continually, it's edging its way into fifth dimensional existence. And so that, in fact, this is a good theme to end our little talk on today. 2027 is when you begin to breathe fifth dimensional air. So we will pause there. Any questions from you?
Aren't some of the people already in fifth dimension living that existence? Okay.
Yes. For example, you both are fifth dimensional beings at all times.
Thank you. Thank you. And what can we do to spread that energy of fifth dimensional awareness?
Continue to grow yourself, keeping your focus on your own guides and angels, higher self, or whatever construct is you are connected to at a higher level. My intention is expansion. And many people talk about growing and increasing in frequency or vibration, amplitude, which is all part of the game. That's like the measure of it all. But listen, for fifth dimensional beings, or those who are kind of weeble wobbling between fifth dimension and third dimension, a key theme is expansiveness. For when your intention is to seek and obtain expansiveness, working with the higher parts of yourself, to be led to all the things that you need to expand, with expansiveness naturally comes raising in frequency, vibration, and amplitude. And the more expansive you are, the more that firmly anchors you in the fifth dimension. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Sheila, you had something to say.
Well, I just wanted to clarify the fifth dimensional air that you're speaking of breathing. Is that also what many other people are calling the new earth?
Yes.
Okay.
And we call it the new earth sometimes as well. And at some point in time, within your lifetimes, it will get a new name.
Right.
That will shed a bit of the old skin of fifth dimensional understanding, which a lot of people have talked about but don't really understand what it means. And new earth, also the same thing. It's getting a little bit stale. So there's going to be a new name that will come in. Be watching for it. Go ahead, Sheila.
Yes. And I was just going to say, for those individuals who are very much aware of that, wouldn't you agree, or is it true that we are, in fact, parts of us living in that new earth already, and that it is in the expanded consciousness, and we vacillate back and forth between the two depending on our frequency?
Yes, you're exactly right. So, and even a fifth dimensional person, like either of you, will have third dimensional experiences. You kind of dabble in the third dimension, but you're really anchored in the fifth dimension. It's like you come home to the fifth dimension, and that's really where you exist. But yeah, so everything is in spin. Everything is like a top spinning. So as you imagine like a top spinning, there is wobble. Right? Just like when the earth spins, there is wobble with the earth. So as humanity rises, there's wobble. And there are first movers, early adopters, let's say, to use a tech term, that are like you and like many of the listeners here. They're there and they're leading the way. And then there are those who are lagging behind, but they'll get there. But yeah, so what you're talking about is what we would call spin, wobble, vacillation. Yes. Anything else?
So, just one more, because so as we move into this other realm, the people who aren't at, and maybe that's not, we don't have to talk about, but don't make that leap to fifth dimension, what's going on? How do they stay in 3D and us live in 5? What's that look like?
Yeah. So there are some people say there will be people left behind. Yeah. We say incorrect.
Right.
Everyone makes it.
Yes.
There's no other way around it. That is the rule of existence, is you all are on the same train. So you can't suddenly, as the train is moving, have the caboose detach and go a different route. It just doesn't work that way. You're all the humans in your existence right now at this moment, all on the same train and all moving. So no one is left behind.
So no one is left behind, but there are people who are not willing to make that leap. They don't want to give up their old life. They want to stay pretty much in the world that exists now, a world of fear, of lack, of drama, of all the things that make the 3D the kind of place that it is. So
yes, so they are laggards, let's say,
right,
but they make it. They will be forced to move into the fifth dimension, or they will exit the stage. So they will leave this existence. So structures will break down in their lives. It could be crises, it could be death, it could be all kinds of things that will force them into change. And this is something that is not done in malice, it is the working of frequential lift, we would say. So things in a lower frequency cannot exist in a higher frequency. Those structures, almost like a sonic boom, going out, explode. They fall apart in the higher frequency. So it's impossible for lower understandings like fear and war and things like that to exist. So they begin to break, shatter, and people are forced, because of that, to move into the higher frequency understanding of themselves and how they behave in the world around them.
Just another question too.
Okay.
So right now, there are many people who are in crisis because of differences of opinions within families, because their vibration are changing and they're no longer resonating at the same frequency. They don't have anything in common. And so for those people who are experiencing a lot of discord, I like to tell them that that's kind of a hopeful thing, that's an exciting thing, because that means that they're shedding all those things that no longer serve them. And I was wondering what you could say to that.
Yes, and you chose a very good word, Sheila. You said discord. So again, everything is sound, right? And frequency, just to remind everybody, frequency is a measure of tone, like a note on the piano. Ah is a note on the piano, and it's measured by a certain frequency. Just like when an orchestra is getting ready to play, they tune all together to A, the note A equals 440 hertz. So hertz is a measure of frequency. Frequency is a note on the piano. So when you have discord, it is that the notes are no longer in harmony. You're a note, Alan, you're a note, Sheila, your friends that you talk to, they're all notes on a piano. And so when there is disharmony with their note and other people's note, it's okay. Because as people raise in frequency and vibration and others are not raising in the same way or at the same velocity, is what you have is the opportunity to move on. Mm-hmm. And this can be hard for people, but sometimes even people will just disappear from one's life because people don't know how to interact with them anymore because they're at a higher frequency and they're like, I don't even know who you are. That is an outcome of frequency change. If you're in a different frequency band, you can't hear it, you don't understand it. So what we would say to those people is see it as an opportunity to keep moving forward. You are doing great work, continue it, and lovingly detach with love and let go.
Beautiful.
Great. So do you have anything about this upcoming conference? We're focusing on the WalkIn Experience, and we're going to be talking to a worldwide audience with some of the great people, including the person that you're working with. Anything you want to tell us about what's coming up, or what you want to bring to that conference?
Yes. So what this conference is we would call it a kickoff of a new global understanding and education process on what walk-ins are. It really is. So you may have noticed there's been a groundswell of, as the proliferation of walk-ins happen and people sharing walk-in stories, you hear it more and more. So it's almost like, imagine Christmas time. Like there's a toy many times, or a couple of toys that will kind of break through all the noise and be like the Christmas gift, the toy of the season. You're familiar with this. Or in tech, like there's a phone or a device that really breaks through, and that's like the device of the season. So we use this as an analogy to say what's happening is this breakthrough moment that's happening with this conference is a kickoff of what walk-ins are to other walk-ins, society as a general, and also medical, healthcare, wellness, and psychiatric professionals. Because what really needs to happen is people who are in the medical field, healthcare field, and also those who are in the therapists, their psychologists, psychiatrists, need to be educated on what this is. So you could call it like a professional education program. Because as people go see these professionals, they may be prescribed medication, which will not help, or see mental health professionals that just don't know how to respond because they think they've had some sort of mental break or a psychotic break and they're not sure what to do. So as this education continues, it helps walk-ins be able to manage the process, which it really is a process. Walk-ins are not a one and done experience. And this is important for the walk-in listeners to hear. Be open and be aware that it's always happening, it's always extending and growing, and many times there's new components that will come in as you continue to live your life. So in a generation, a full generation, walk-ins will be understood by all of those different audiences. And what you're doing, the work you're doing with this conference is really what we see as the kickoff for it.
Beautiful. Isn't that great, Sheila? Isn't like
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when I came in as a walk-in, part of my mission was to be a way shower. And what better way to demonstrate what walk-ins are than to gather walk-ins together, to have them to build this synergy that we can send out to everyone so that, you know, walk-ins can become a household understanding. And it's not that it's, you know, it's not taboo, it's not possession, and people have all these misconceptions. So I'm so happy and excited to hear your message about the conference, because that's what I feel that it is also. So Alan, we're on the right track, my friend.
Well, that's why I thought you would love the guides and their message, because they're talking right to our audience. And on this conference coming up, the guides there, what will you kind of talk about, or what do you feel you want to tune into, if you have a little taste of, or like a foreshadowing, or what we can look forward to exactly
from us, or from the conference?
Yeah, from us, from you guys, the channel being.
Yeah, well, first of all, education. Yeah, creating a sense of allowingness, it's okay. And also creating a sense of challenge to, as was said earlier, to help people understand what they're here to do as the new walk-in, by really connecting with that new higher component that is them. Because, and keep in mind, so a person's higher self is them. When that structure leaves and a new higher self soul structure comes in, that becomes them. So it's a whole new ball game, as it were. It really is a new person. And so challenging them to really connect, much like we do with the being that you see before you, connect and learn and understand on an ongoing basis. It's a relationship. And we go further to say it's a symbiosis. It's a symbiotic relationship, and walk-ins should see themselves as that way, as symbiotes, which means you're a being that lives in symbiosis with another being or other beings, so that you are one, you know, almost like braided hair comes together and creates one ponytail. And so the more that relationship can be intimate, that then the person can understand themselves better and understand what they're here to do. Walk-ins happen for a reason, and it's always happening at this time that it goes from a lower vibrational being to a much higher vibrational being. That's kind of the rule set for walk-ins. So know that, and know that there is, you could say, a higher calling on one's life as a walk-in. And then I think the last component would be celebration.
Yes.
is this is not something to be ashamed of, to be sad for, to despise your life, to feel like to be in fear or terror. But although there may be moments of all that, we understand that, but to walk into this celebration of, wow, what a blessing, what an experience to be of service in a grand and miraculous way to this earth, to humanity, and all the other beings that inhabit the earth realm. It is a great and grand and miraculous honor to be a walk-in. So celebration would be the last thing that we would say.
Oh, isn't that beautiful, Sheila? Isn't that
Love it. Love it.
great? Oh, I know you have to go soon. Just want to, is there anything for this upcoming year? You talked about 2027, but for 2022, anything you see that we need to do, prepare, change?
Alan, there are many, many changes happening right now to 2022.
Yeah.
We're not going to comment specifically on that, but we would say this: stay rooted in what we call the fruit of the Spirit. And that we will quote is love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, self-control, teachability, faith, hope, and again we say love. Let that be your inner experience and let that be your outer experience. And that will guarantee a successful 2022.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're going to step out of the life that you see before you. We bless you. We bless all of your listeners, and we bless this walk-in conference.
Thank
You okay?
Yes, I am.
Did you remember any of that?
There were a lot of words. I remember a lot of words.
It was good. Wasn't that great, Sheila?
It was absolutely awesome. And it just sort of really filled me with joy because everything that I heard is what I have been saying since I kind of arrived in the body and hitting the ground running. And so I'm so appreciative, and it's very exciting to know that this conference is really, the purpose was to create community for other walk-ins, to let them know they're not alone, to show a diversity of the different types of walk-ins that are out there, so that people, as they're having these experiences, could say, oh, I'm not alone. I can reach out to this person. I can talk to this person. We can create community together. And that's exactly what we were hearing. And we received a blessing for the conference as well. So that was amazing.
That's great. Yeah, the people that I work with, everything is divinely coordinated and magnetic. I work with a lot of walk-ins. And so I've been telling them about this conference and the work that you've done, both Sheila and Alan, and they all respond with, no way, you're kidding me, really? There's like a thing? There's like a conference for this? So they're really thrilled that there is a community that's growing and being built here.
Well, you are part of that community, Jason. And we're, what your guide said, we're going to really spread this community around the planet because we're all moving into a 5D reality. And that's what we've been waiting for. This is the Aquarian age, whatever you want to call it. So
yeah,
here we are.
Very exciting stuff.
Yeah. And Sheila's book, WalkIn's Cosmology of the Soul, is the kind of door opening of that perspective. So Sheila, anything you want to say before we sign off? And
Jason, I just wanted to thank you again for coming and giving our viewers a taste of what they can expect to see at this conference. I just tell everybody that I'm talking to, just strap in, because I think this conference is going to rock your world. So thank you, Alan, for helping with all the promotions. You're just, you really helped make this happen. And Neil for providing this phenomenal platform. And for all of our speakers for coming out and to support this mission.
And for all the people listening on YouTube, you're invited for a discount to this conference. You go in the discount code area, PortalToAscension. You can put PTA 25. You get 25% off that list price, which makes it very affordable. And what do you have for you, Jason, coming up in your schedule?
Well, I continue to do the work with people and groups and couples, etc. I'm going to be moving back to Orlando, Florida, in about a week. I've been in Sedona for a year, which has been kind of like boot camp. It's been a great experience, but I'll be back in Orlando, and we will see what unfolds there.
But are you're still doing privates? You're doing all that, right?
Oh yeah. So I have an enterprise called WAVE Foundation, WAVVE Foundation, and so I do a number of things there. I work with individuals, groups, couples. I have events from time to time where I do public channeling. I do energy work. I practice a number of different healing modalities, including angelic healing, frequency healing. I do space clearing. And then I also do what I call spirit-led enterprise advisory, where I work with select companies and organizations who are open-minded and expansive and provide channeled information that can help them make key decisions, key hires, and remove blocks for them to move forward. So I stay busy.
Well, I am so happy you're joining us because you add a whole other flavor to this ongoing community that's forming. I mean, I don't think I'm a walk-in, but I support that because, we're all coming in at different levels, and who knows, maybe the planet is going to be a walked-in energy of these higher frequencies.
I think you're right.
So thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, guys.
I guess I'll be in Sedona, I think in March, but I might not see you there. But if you come back and forth.
Well, if you move here, I might come back and visit. That'll be
motivating. Oh, definitely. Well, I don't know if I'll move there, but I like to visit.
Okay. All right.
And Sheila, thank you again. We have some people coming up at the end of this week, interviews. Who do we have?
No, actually, this is all we have for this week, but let's pull up. Yep. Our schedule for next week.
Yeah.
Let's see, here we go. So on the 27th, we have Diva Grace that's coming in, and she's kind of like a consciousness pioneer, and she's been working with a lot of the Gaia energy, and I'm still waiting to hear back from a couple other people right now, but we definitely have someone coming in on the 27th, so that will be absolutely phenomenal.
And I'm also thinking you should have Jason speak to your Wish Alliance.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of Wish Alliance stands for walk-ins, indigos, starseeds, and hybrids. Sheila's foundation, and I think you'd be great for that very open audience.
I would love to.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, we'll stay connected.
Okay, and we'll see you in January. And thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
Thanks for changing your schedule and making this happen. Okay.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you.
I'll talk to you, Sheila. See you guys.
Bye.